Hey everybody, this is Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, across Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I do a podcast every Saturday called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, a retrospective look at the wonderful world of retro gaming, from interviews to guests. Join us every Saturday, like a Saturday morning cartoon, starting at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the brand new retro gaming community, a place to share, connect, and show your love for the retro gaming community. All the links are down below. And remember, enjoy the Gamers Week podcast.
This time on Gamers Week podcast.
Like, that would be me at Nintendo Live 2023. All the stickers, all the little whatevers, put them in my bag. They're mine now.
I'm just imagining that there's like this table of like keychains and stickers and stuff, and Blue runs up there with like a bag, and she says to the guy who's running, "Oh my God, it's Doug Bowser!" And then like shoves everything
with an arm sweep.
Yeah.
Oh, I swear that was him. That's so weird.
You hear this deep growl like, mine.
I'm gonna say I shouldn't be hosting tonight. Because
Why?
what always works is that Blue follows Donnie. And I think Donnie hosted last time. So Blue, clearly it's your time to host, right?
Don't make me say what I'm really thinking.
I'm not getting in the middle of this argument.
I just wanted to get out of hosting, okay? Is that terribly wrong?
Yes. You miss way too many of your turns. So, yeah.
I'm feeling a mini vacation coming on.
And I feel like giving everybody your address.
Oh, damn.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
Donnie's not playing.
Doxed by my own co-host. I like it. Touche, sir. Touche. All right. Do you want to go ahead and get this started?
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Host.
Mr. Host. You know what? I like that. Call me Mr. Host from here on out.
No. You got it that once. I hope you enjoyed it.
I've ruined it, haven't I?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, the worst, and the weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 68. Today is Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. My name is Ryan, aka Ryebread, and aka Retro Gamers, and I will be your host for this evening. But I have with me two awesome co-hosts. First of all is a woman whose bloodline can be traced back to Ooga Booga Beluga III, king of the Neanderthals. Blue, how you doing tonight?
You say his name with respect.
That was sort of blasé in his tone, wasn't it? Ooga booga beluga.
Sorry. Ooga booga beluga.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
And I also have with me a man who is currently being sued by the folks at Head and Shoulders for his line of lower body dandruff shampoo called Bush and Holders. Donnie G Retro. Donnie, how you doing?
You got me on that one. I didn't know you were going with it, but all right. It's not that flaky. Trust me. It's smooth. It's not that flaky.
On that note, why don't we go ahead and jump into our reviews, reactions, and requests for the week. First up from Dustin Roberts, listening to the podcast at the office definitely makes the workday better. Awesome. Love to hear that, Dustin. Daniel Collins says, how exciting, my first podcast, LOL. Everyone I know listens to podcasts at work, but I've never really been attracted to the idea. Guess I just needed the right subject matter. I can get into some game talk. Boom.
And everybody remembers their first.
Welcome, Daniel Collins.
And last but not least, Random Retro Deuce adds, I don't use this account often, but when I do, it's to say I love you guys. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday. We love you too.
And now, it's time for the Yiggity yiggity yo, it's time for the very important poll, yo. What's the haps on the craps? Shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em. Oh, it didn't do it, did it?
No, I didn't.
No, it didn't.
Oh, okay. God damn it. What the hell happened?
We liked it though.
I did. I really did.
Yo, 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 it's a very important poll. What's the haps on the craps, yo?
Beautiful.
There it is.
Beautiful.
There it is.
The payoff was worth it.
Every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP, very important poll. If you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. The question this week was, with Zelda Link to the Past celebrating its 31st birthday this week, it begs the question, what is your favorite Zelda clone game? Coming in third place this week was Crusader of Senti with 19.6%. Following up was Hyper Light Drifter at 21.3%. And the first place winner was Beyond Oasis at 27.3%. Now, an overwhelming amount of you said other at 31.9%. So let's take a look at some of the comments from the poll. At Alan with T says, I have never seen any other game do Zelda-style puzzle dungeons as well as crosscode. They can get pretty fiendish. At The Luchadork says, I would never call it a Zelda clone, but Terranigma is unquestionably the best action RPG that doesn't have Zelda in the title. If we're solely talking clones, I guess my second choice would be Crystalis. Or Crystalis. I'm sure I was going to get corrected there.
Me never.
Right? Little Do was pretty solid, as was Kamiko. Swords of Ditto was fine, too. At Geeks by the Creek says 3D Dot Games Heroes. Alundra was right up there, and all of those others are good, but 3D Dot Games Heroes brings so much to the table. At Indignant Beaver, nice, says, surprised at some of the answers for a clone. I'm going to throw Moonlighter into the ring, though. Haven't seen it mentioned. And at CMS Calvert says, I need to play some of these. I honestly have never found a worthy clone of any Zelda game.
Can I just go ahead and say that Indignant Beaver wins the internet this week? That is the best name.
Yes, that's why I had to pause. And I'm just like, Indignant Beaver. What is an Indignant Beaver?
So many explanations.
And we're just going to pass right over all of them.
There you go.
So based on the poll this week, Ryan, what was your choice?
So one of the things I did want to clarify before I give my answer is that often I think people associate Zelda with like more of an action RPG. And I want to draw the line a little bit on that one. The reason that I do not think, and this is just my opinion, so feel free to at me, but I don't think that Zelda is an action RPG because there's no level up system. So,
oh God,
I'm just going to throw that out there just real quick before I provide my answer. But the one that is more like a RPG is Zelda 2 because you can level up. There's an experience-based system. And the game that reminds me most of Zelda 2 is a game that I ended up including in a Big Ten NES challenge. It was a game called Battle of Olympus, which up until that point I had never heard of, but I got a chance to play it. I like to play all the games that are in those tournaments, and I actually really, really enjoyed that game. Even though it's kind of a side scroller and the Zelda tropes that you would expect, it's almost an exact clone of Zelda 2. And it plays really well. There's a lot of puzzles. There's opportunities for you to use damage boosts to skip to other areas. So it's a lot of fun. And with my like limited amount of experience with Zelda clones, I think I'm going to go with that one. Because all the ones that people had named in the comments too, I think we got like over 100 comments on this one. I was like, nope, haven't played that one. Nope, haven't played that one.
Right.
So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Battle of Olympus.
All right. Battle of Olympus is RGB's choice. Blue, what is your choice this week?
This was actually an extremely easy choice for me because my mind immediately went to a game called Evoland Legendary Edition. So for anybody who's not heard of it, which is a shockingly and disappointingly large number of people, Evoland was released, I think, back in 2012. And it's a short little game where you essentially start out Game Boy style graphics and you progress through the history of video games. So every time there was a large jump in technology, like for example, you get color, you get sound, you get, 3D graphics, whatever, those are things you unlock throughout the stages of the game. And so it's short, it's easy to play through in one sitting, and it's really, really fun.
I've actually heard of this game. I just didn't know what the title was. So now I know, because I think I remember many, many years ago hearing about it and just thinking to myself, hey, this sounds awesome. I'd really love to play it, and then just forgot about it. So.
Well, now you know, Evoland. And the real kicker is that it got a sequel, Evoland 2.
Nice.
Which is a total Link to the Past-esque type game where you have to progress through different timelines to solve puzzles, and it's really, really fun. The graphics are beautiful. It also has more of the nods towards gaming history because it's got little segments in the game for different genres. There's a beat 'em up segment. There's a fighting game segment. There's even like a rhythm game, like Guitar Hero-esque segment. So whatever's your favorite genre of game, you'll find it in there. It's a love letter to the history of gaming. And even if you're not necessarily like a hardcore gamer, it's still really, really fun, really, really well done little indie game.
I'm looking forward to the section where they have a hentai puzzle game in there.
I know you're a connoisseur of those. So, Donnie, what was your choice?
This is actually going to be the death of me because I couldn't think of, like, I'm seeing all of these great answers, but I've never even heard of most of these games.
Right.
The only one that was close was Crusader of Senti. Mm-hmm. And that is a direct ripoff of The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So when Blue gives her answer and Ryan gives his answer, and I didn't even stop to think about Battle of Olympus, because you're right, it's exactly like the Zelda 2. It plays perfectly like that. So Battle of Olympus, I'm going to leech off of Ryan this week, and I will say that one.
Leech away, big guy. Leech away. Please don't stop. Just keep doing that for the next 15 minutes.
And then when we have no more subscribers.
Hashtag worth it. All right. So why don't we go ahead and shout out our patrons for the week?
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Fruitcake's #1 stand, Ducks with Thick Thighs. Glizzy's Adventure in Meat Wallet World, a new Metrovania game for the N64. We've been trying to reach you regarding your car's extended warranty. Donnie G Retro's #2 fan, Cadbury Cream Egg Styrofoam Sandwich. I like my coffee like I like my women, milk and 2 sugars. You guys are killing me. Wizard of Zardoz, Bob's of Dugnut, Retro Blast Pad, Orgasmo 3000, Great Simon 81, B&T Zilla Guy, Geek With That, Donnie G Retro fan for a week, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Boski, Terry Kinnair, Ducks in Disguise, Jim and Colleen, Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, The Red Ox, PDX Family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach Huge Thanks, #1 Blue Sick Voice Fan, Random Retro Dude, Princess Kitty Mew Mew, Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Emo-esque, Bill Tucker, and The Real Retro Game Brews. If you like what you heard today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing, like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
Hey, Ryan?
Yes?
How many do you have?
Well, I think some of them have changed, but Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcake's #1 stand.
So technically 3. So
3.
I've got 2. Blue, how many do you have?
1.
Scoreboard!
You know
Hashtag
what?
Winning.
You know what? Quality over quantity.
Oh, I see. Donnie asks for 1. He gets 2. His cup runneth over.
Runneth over. I am fullest.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and check out our headlines for the week. Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast, and each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're doing a deep dive into the Canadian Game Show Video and Arcade Top 10. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes. Unfortunately, growing up in the U.S., I have never seen or heard of this.
Me neither, but if it's as good as some of the 80s classic game shows that we've received here in the US, I gotta watch it. Full season, stream it now. Let's go.
I was thinking, is there like any Canadian shows that I would know as a kid. And the only one I can think of is you can't do that or can't say that on television.
Right.
Do you remember
or
that?
Strange Brew.
Oh, Strange Brew. Was that was on TV. Yeah, you're right. Now that you mention it. But we needed more Canadian shows growing up. I heard that Drake, the rapper, was on one of those shows. It was like a kid show,
really?
right? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I need more Canadian retro TV in my life, I think.
Sorry.
This guy knows what I'm talking about.
What am I talking about?
We apologize to our Canadian listeners.
From Games Radar, Microsoft says Nintendo had nothing to do with Xbox emulator crackdown. Emulator developers are reporting that Microsoft has started to crack down on certain forms of emulator distribution on Xbox Series X and S consoles. Microsoft's official store policies dictate that products that emulate a game system or game platform are not allowed on any device family. Yet players have been bypassing that restriction for some time. You can't find emulators on the actual Xbox store, but various options exist to allow you to install homebrew applications, including emulators ranging from DuckStation to Dolphin and Xenia through third-party sources. But Microsoft has now taken those options down. Emulators and other homebrew applications will now not launch on a standard Xbox console, as you'll get the message that this game or app can't be launched as it violates the Microsoft Store policy. After Microsoft began taking action against emulators being run on Xbox consoles, a statement shared on Twitter attributed to a member of the Xbox QA team suggested that the action was being taken due to legal issues with Nintendo. Now, an official Microsoft statement suggests that's not the case. The information currently circulating on Twitter is not accurate, Microsoft tells IGN. Our actions are based on a long-standing policy on content distributed to the store to ensure alignment with our Microsoft Store policies. Microsoft's obviously within its rights to restrict emulators on its platform. It is, again, right there in the store policy, but users are understandably frustrated with the sudden changes in how these policies are enforced.
I know a certain Xbox QA team member who is getting the pink slip tonight.
Do you think they're able to track him or her down?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think actually the interesting thought about all this is what if they're telling the truth? I mean, Microsoft probably doesn't want to tangle with Nintendo if it doesn't have to. So they're going to shut the truth down real fast as they can. Like, no, we like Nintendo. They're our friends. But it could still totally be true.
And you know what? That probably stems from the fact that Dolphin is on it, which is, of course, the GameCube emulator.
No, it's not. It's
Right.
the big and cube-shaped console
Oh, I'm so
emulator.
sorry. Right from the big end, you're right.
Yep. GameCube, what's that? Oh.
But I mean, Microsoft does have the right to shut this stuff down. I mean, let's be honest. The fact that the people are going around the rules to do this already speaks to kind of the, not illegality, but just the nature of trying to game the system, if you will, in order to play these games. Now, especially if they're able to emulate Xbox games on there. What a great way to get free stuff. I mean, kind of wish I knew about this before. I got to find out about it at the news. And I would have loved to play a lot of free Xbox games. But nonetheless, I totally get it. But if you were playing that and you haven't logged in a while on your Xbox, you might want to do that today just to make sure.
That's a forced update, right? Kind of like with
Exactly,
the
right.
PS3. Whatever. I remember initially the PS3 allowed you to install Linux. And then eventually they're like, nope, we can't do that. And I can't remember the reason why they took it away. But of course, software updates, they're like, well, if you want to continue to play your PS3, you have to do the software update. And it kind of forced you, either you took it or you weren't going to be able to play your PS3 again. And that kind of sucks.
So with Linux, that's the same operating system that you can use on a Raspberry Pi, correct?
I believe so. It's like an open source and all that.
Right. So technically, you could make it into anything that you want. You had your PS3 as a really high-powered Raspberry Pi. That would have been legit.
The PlayStation 3, though, they allowed it. They initially launched it with other OS support. And then all of a sudden, they're like, nope, we're going to take that away. And this feels exactly like that. Now, Granted that Microsoft is not allowing emulators in their store, but knowing that there's roundabout ways for you to go out and get it, like I don't think they should have shut this avenue down.
And I think it really just depends on what people were using it for. If you're emulating games that are no longer played, I guess I just don't care as much. Especially, I'm going to use the full legal term. If you own it already, but you want to emulate it on this system, feel free. I don't care. But I get their desire to avoid things like piracy. So while I agree from a gamer's perspective, this sucks that they're taking it away, I totally get it from a company perspective.
And you know what else sucks? We have talked many times about how gaming PCs are pretty inaccessible in that they're so ridiculously expensive.
Right.
So if you were using your Xbox as kind of a catch-all gaming machine, so maybe you didn't have to invest that kind of money in a gaming PC and you could still emulate stuff like you wanted. Now, right, that avenue is being taken away from you. So that's pretty discouraging, I think, if this was something you were really into.
They could just go the Nintendo route and give you just a small number of those games that you can play on there. Only the ones that they choose that have no licenses with anyone else.
Right.
So you can play things like Side Pockets. Yay.
Right.
Yay, Side Pockets. Who wants to get better at pool? I know Blue does.
Oh, snap in your face.
Oh my God.
I think we should have mentioned this every episode we ever do, is that
Donnie probably is going to. He gives me shit for how many times I mentioned guessing game of the year, but I think that he's brought up this pool thing like 4 or 5 times already.
Milking it for all it's worth.
Pretty much.
That's me milking it.
I'm glad you clarified.
All right, next up from GameSpot, IGDA releases new game crediting policies to help developers get recognition. The International Game Developers Association revealed on April 11 that it has updated its standards regarding developer credits in video games. According to the IGDA, its Game Credits Special Interest Group has been working to promote inclusivity and best practices for how credits are attributed in video games. Various IGDA SIGs have recently given feedback that resulted in the Game Crediting Guide getting its first update in over 10 years. But according to the association, there is still more work to be done. Employees in the games industry are often mislabeled, unlabeled, or left off the list of credited developers, though they may have spent years of their life to bring a game to market, read an official statement released by IGDA earlier today. The association's claims are bolstered by the research performed by several IGDA interest groups. The results of the organization's 2023 State of Credit survey give a particularly eye-opening look at the way industry employees are credited or not credited for their work. According to the results of the survey, 51.3% of participants said they never, seldom, or sometimes receive official credit for their efforts. Over 80% of participants selected no or unsure when asked if their workplace or client had any official policy regarding game credits in place. Evidence of this problem has appeared in the news with increasing frequency over the last few years, from the original developers of Metroid Prime receiving nothing but a short mention in the special thanks credits of the remastered game, to Sam Maggs, the lead writer of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, also being relegated to a small special thanks section.
Just reminds me of like an Oscar speech, right? Where they're like, thanks this person, and everyone else.
Yeah, you know who you are. Yeah. I mean, you think about movies, even craft services is usually credited.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And in fact, the movie industry has been really good about making criteria for how people are provided credit for their work. So that's why the credits are so long at the end of the movie, but for good reason, right? We want to provide people with credit for the things that they've contributed to the end product of this.
Right.
And the fact that 51%, more than half of the people said never, seldom, or sometimes, that's eye-opening. And again, they said, imagine you put all years of your time into this and don't get credit for it. I think all of us can kind of empathize with that. If you've been a part of something that someone else took credit for, and you sat back there and went, "You motherfucker!" But this is even more so, considering that this would be an opportunity for them to get a future employment by saying, "Hey, I was a part of this game, and look, you can look right at the credits. I'm right there." As somebody who's contributed to this. And without that, you don't have a whole lot of proof, except for maybe, I don't know, your LinkedIn profile or something like that. So I think that this is probably a good thing moving forward. And really, there's precedence for this in the video game industry, starting, with the creation of Activision, right? And, Atari wasn't giving credit to game developers at all. And they kind of created their own entire company just so that they could start doing that. So Activision, thank you so much for blazing the trail here.
Is that the only thing we're thanking Activision for?
Pretty
In
much.
recent years, correct.
Their contribution in the older years, that's what we're thanking them for.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this. Is that the management team said, oh, yeah, us 5 management teams that oversaw the Pacific, the Northwest, this and all this. Like, we get the credit, but everybody else who did the 3D mapping, the lighting, the ambiance, the environment design, the character design, all that stuff, the storyboarding, they're the ones not getting recognized for their work. I kind of find that hard to believe.
Oh, come on. Have you really never been in a company where a supervisor took credit for the work of their underlings?
I have. Yes, I have.
I mean, just because the credits are long doesn't mean they shouldn't be a hell of a lot longer.
True.
And let's say you're just a contractor,
Yes. I know that for a fact. Contractors get treated like crap. You do the same job as everybody else, but you're like, nope, you're not an employee. Screw off.
Right. If you worked for the game for a couple months and then left, got fired, let go, whatever, before it was completed, technically you still belong in those credits, but you're not actually an employee of the company. So who cares? Nobody but you.
And there's no one out there that's going to hold a game company to task for not including them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I say nobody, obviously this group, which was the International Game Developers Association, they seem to be obviously concerned with it. But this is the first I'm hearing of this group. So I would love to see them contribute more, tell us more about what's happening in there and lobby, potentially, like you said, contractors or somebody else or somebody who just, doesn't have the power to insist that they're in the credits for a game.
Well, and unionization will help this a lot.
For sure.
If more developers are able to create and join unions, then this problem, I imagine, will kind of get sorted out along with many other things that get sorted out.
Which is why in the movie industry, that did happen, right? The Screen Actors Guild lobbied for this requirement for credits. And to your point, even the caterers getting credit for stuff like that. So by all means, let's have some regulation around this.
So SAG for Screen Actors Guild, GAG for Game Actors Guild. I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, next up from Nintendo.com. Nintendo announces Nintendo Live 2023, an event for everyone that celebrates Nintendo fun. After initially debuting in Japan, a Nintendo Live event is coming to the US. Nintendo Live 2023 is a new way to experience the games and worlds of Nintendo with fun gameplay, live stage performances, exciting game tournaments, memorable photo ops, and more. Held in Seattle in September, the in-person event will celebrate Nintendo's unique entertainment on the Nintendo Switch system, inviting all members of the family to come together, play, and have fun. Fans of all ages can currently experience the unique games, characters, and worlds of Nintendo on Nintendo Switch, but we want to expand that scope with a new experience, said Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser. With Nintendo Live 2023, we're giving attendees a chance to celebrate together with family and friends and the broader Nintendo community in the spirit of fun and creating long-lasting memories. At Nintendo Live 2023 in Seattle, attendees will experience a wide variety of Nintendo game-inspired activities across a large-scale themed area. People of all ages and gaming experiences are encouraged to attend since the experience is designed with both families and fans in mind. During the event, visitors will be able to celebrate the world of Nintendo, taking part in Nintendo Switch gameplay, enjoying live entertainment, cheering on high-energy gaming tournaments, and taking unforgettable photos with recognizable characters like Mario and Luigi, among many activities. More details about the event, including specific timing and how to attend, will be revealed in the future. For now, get excited for September. Nintendo Live 2023 will be pressing start soon.
You almost said unforgivable photos.
Yes, it's unforgivable.
What kind of photos are those?
Ouch, my childhood. I don't want to think about it.
But I'm super excited for this. This is awesome. I mean, obviously I won't be able to attend, but for everybody who is, this sounds super, super cool. What I'm hoping is that this is also broadcast for people to be able to watch, especially those gaming tournaments. I think that would be super cool to watch. One of the things that often happens with Nintendo is that they forget about the US sometimes. So it's nice to see that they're finally doing one of these events on North American shores. And being it in Seattle, they're probably going to be able to bring in folks from all over the Pacific Northwest.
The Pacific Northwest?
The Pacific Northwest and Canada. So super cool. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I would love to go. I would so freaking love to go. I bet there's going to be so many giveaways and swag things you can pick up. And I'm sure that the tickets to this thing are going to be stupid expensive.
Oh my God, yes.
You're going to pay for all of it. But I would be like those people that you joke about leaving hotels where they take all the extra toilet paper and the shampoo and everything. And they even take the batteries out of the remote control and all that. Like that would be me at Nintendo Live 2023. All the stickers, all the little whatevers, put them in my bag. They're mine now.
I'm just imagining that there's like this table of like keychains and stickers and stuff, and Blue runs up there with like a bag, and she says to the guy who's running, "Oh my God, it's Doug Bowser!" And then like shoves everything
with an arm sweep.
Yeah.
Oh, I swear that was him. That's so weird.
You hear this deep growl like, "Mine."
Or better yet, I would just like Kirby them all in, like.
I'm not touching that one.
No, you got until September to practice your best Kirby. So
maybe we'll just forget about that.
No, but I saw this, and I think Blue posted about it, and she and I were talking, and this is in September, and you have PRGE that's happening in October. And if PRGE wasn't as fun and awesome and a great way to hang out, I would totally skip PRGE and go to Nintendo Live.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I can only go to one. And I did promise everyone last year that I was going to go to PRGE, so that's where I am going. But PRGE better deliver, because year after that, 2024, I may be swayed to go to Nintendo Live instead.
Would it really upset you if I went to Nintendo Live but not PRGE?
Yes. Yes.
Not as long as you brought me all the swag.
Got it. So I'll bring like 4 suitcases with me. Yep. It's going to be a lot in shipping, though.
I don't care.
Fair enough. If you pay the shipping.
No, I feel that you can afford it.
Okay. So it's on me to go there, to pay all the money, to steal stuff and potentially get arrested and ship it to you. Great. I love this deal.
How much do you value our friendship? Put a monetary value on it.
I'm not going to touch that one just yet. So,
next up from IGN, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog hits 1 million downloads as one of Steam's highest rated games ever. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog has officially crossed 1 million downloads and has become one of Steam's highest rated games ever. Sonic the Hedgehog's social media manager took to Twitter to share the news, saying, "Over 1 million of you have grabbed The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's currently the number 61 highest rated game on Steam of all time. Absolutely unreal. Thank you all so much." For those unfamiliar, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is a murder mystery visual novel game that surprise launched on Steam just before April Fool's Day 2023. In the game, which is free, it is Amy Rose's birthday, and she's hosting a murder mystery party that has Sonic becoming the victim, killed by Mario. However, things quickly start feeling a bit strange. It's then your job as a new character to interrogate Sonic's friends and try to get to the bottom of this mystery on the train known as the Mirage Express. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog follows 2022's Sonic Frontiers, which just got a big update that added new challenge modes, a photo mode, and a jukebox for players to listen to their favorite Sonic songs.
I had no idea that I needed a video game version of the movie Clue with Sonic characters, but now that it's here, I realize that I actually did need this, and I just didn't know it.
1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Yes, I was gonna say, how am I gonna bring that joke into this? And you did it, sir. Well done.
Yeah.
Just be like, and Tails, that's just a red herring.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's so successful because it's free.
Probably.
Yeah.
If you had to pay for this Sonic murder mystery game, even if it was just a couple bucks, would you really do it?
If it was 99 cents, maybe.
The only thing is, to Blue's point, would it be as popular if it was a few bucks? Would we be even talking about this if it was?
Probably not.
Right.
It would be one of those things that the really hardcore Sonic fans are getting into, but everyone else is just kind of like, I'm sorry, a murder mystery with Sonic, whatever. And they would just pass it by. But because it's free, people can try it without risk. And I mean, you assume that it's funny.
It says it's the 61st highest rated game on Steam. So that's maybe something to say that at least it's good, right? I don't know if I trust all ratings on websites like that. So.
Right, because review bombs are never a thing.
What's the opposite of a review bomb? A health potion? I don't know. But it sounds, though, just the concept of it is, it's interesting. And the name, I think I thought at first maybe it was a little bit, too on the nose, but it invites you to wonder what this is all about. The murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's fantastic. So kudos to their team for taking a risk with that.
It needs to be that on the nose, because otherwise...
Yeah, like if it was like Sonic Murder Mystery House, like you wouldn't care.
Right. That would be so lame.
It's like one of those shovelware games where it's like, oh, match up the jewels or whatever to get to solve Sonic's mystery. Nope, I'm not going to do that.
I was hoping, I know this is not the case, but I was hoping that Tim Curry would lend his voice to this, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Oh, Tim Curry. Not what he used to be.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so why don't we jump into our top 3 new releases for the week?
Sherlock Holmes The Awakened, the remake. It's out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Experience a nerve-wracking Lovecraftian adventure rebuilt from the ground up with modern graphics and gameplay. Become Sherlock Holmes and find yourself at the heart of the terrifying Cthulhu mythos as you investigate a series of mysterious disappearances in Europe and the US. Next is Tron Identity, out on Switch and PC. In a new grid, forgotten by its creator and left alone to evolve without user intervention, an unprecedented crime has been committed. The repository stands at the center of this society. In the aftermath of a break-in, the future of this grid hangs in the balance. Tron Identity is a visual novel adventure following Query, a detective program tasked with uncovering the mystery of what was taken and by whom. Finding yourself in a world built on unstable foundations and filled with whispered knowledge, it's up to you to question suspects and investigate your surroundings to piece together the truth. And last up is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, out on PS4, Switch, and PC. The renowned Mega Man Battle Network series is back. Get ready to jack into the net to face off against deadly enemy programs in electrifying grid-based battles, and search the net for rare and powerful battle chips to build the ultimate deck of special moves. This bundle includes 10 action-packed games, plus additional features like a gallery of illustrations and music. In addition, online play is supported. So out of these 3, Ryan...
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to play?
Sherlock Holmes, I didn't play the original because apparently this is a remake. Even though I've loved the books, this just is, I don't think, up my alley. Looks really nice, I will say that. With Mega Man Battle Network, I just don't, and this is, again, my personal opinion, I just don't get these games. I don't get the appeal of them. I never have. It's like grid turn-based combat and you're Mega Man on the internet or something like that. It's just
you don't want to jack into the net,
right? It reminds me of like
who's a net?
And so I just don't get it. And again, though, I'm sure there are fans of it. I'm sure people love it. People are going to tell me I'm wrong, and these are the 84 reasons why. But I've tried several versions of Mega Man Battle Network, and it's just never been something I've played for more than an hour. So that leaves me with Tron Identity. I loved the old Tron movies. The newer ones were okay. I loved the old Tron game. So I think if I'm going to pick one out of the 3, I'll go with something that feels familiar, at least for me. So I guess I'll go with Tron Identity. However, is this a game that, given any other choice outside of the ones we presented today, I probably wouldn't give it a second look.
Hentai puzzle game?
Tron Identity hentai puzzle game, I would be all in for that.
Where are you going with that light cycle, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Donnie, what are you in for?
I'm the same with Ryan. The Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, like I don't get it at all. It doesn't feel like a Mega Man game.
Right.
That leaves me with Sherlock Holmes or Tron Identity. Sherlock Holmes, I've seen the gameplay. It looks great. I like a good puzzle game. It looks like a good third-person action adventure type game where you're solving stuff. I'm a dummy when it comes to some of this stuff, man. I feel like a dummy, and if I were to go to play this game, it would make me look like the dummy of all dummies. I mean, you guys have seen me play Resident Evil 4, where I'm like, oh my god, check your map. I have a map? Oh my god. Okay, I'll do that. And I feel like this game would just weigh down on me with so much pressure that I would sink into a horrible depression. So I do love the look of it. I love Sherlock Holmes. One of my favorite movies is Young Sherlock Holmes, but I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. I'd like to play it, but we'll see.
I know that you used to play Tex Murphy. What was it?
Yes.
Yeah. You were really good at those games, though. I will say this, but I don't know that's because you either played them before or not, but I loved watching you stream those. So I doubt this is the same as Tex Murphy, though. So maybe it's because the game's funny, too. So I can't imagine Sherlock Holmes being a funny game.
No, it's not.
No.
And with Tex Murphy, you're right. It's very funny. I've never played a single Tex Murphy game before in my life, but I do love full motion video games. So that was kind of a bit different.
Right.
This one, it's just looking like it's asking for a smarter caliber of player, and I don't think I fit the bill there. Tron Identity, I love the Tron universe, more so the newer movies as opposed to the older ones, in juxtaposition to Ryan's statement. But it's a story-driven game.
Visual novel.
Come on. I do love a good choose-your-own-adventure. I will check it out. I will definitely test the waters to see if it's something that's up my alley. But right now, the toss-up is between Sherlock Holmes and Tron Identity.
By the way, I'm going to be tagging Jeff Bridges in this when we announce this. Just to
Please.
let him know.
Please, because I love Jeff Bridges. So based on the releases, Blue, what's your pick this week?
Well, apologies to fans of these games. I am going to skip Mega Man Battle Network as well. I don't know about tactical RPG Mega Man. Tron Identity. I really don't care about the Tron movies one way or another, so I know.
Jeff's going to be so mad.
But I don't care for visual novels, so I'll skip that. That sends me up to Sherlock Holmes, The Awakened, the remake. I did not play the original, so I don't know anything about this game. I'm not even that big of a Sherlock Holmes fan, so I don't really care for the books that much. Ooh. But Cthulhu is always a fun time. Solving puzzles, yeah, I'm down for it. I kind of suspect that the game wants you to feel smart, but you don't actually need to be smart. That's how I'm guessing the experience will go. It'll do a good job of like propping up your ego and making you think that you've just happened to stumble across the clue, but you didn't.
Yay, I could play it.
But yeah, I'm going to agree with Ryan. Given any other choices this week, I would probably go with something else.
Unfortunately, I can't tag Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in this.
You mean his ghost isn't on Twitter?
Oh my God, I need to make that as an alt account. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's ghost. So for tomorrow's meeting, with all of the directors from the company, I have to do this activity called gesture mirroring. And the idea is that I do a gesture and they all have to follow. So it's like me stepping my fingers, right?
That's part of how Charles Manson used to indoctrinate his followers.
Are you dead serious?
I'm dead serious.
Helter Skelter, coming right at you.
Yep. Just follow Charlie. Don't think, just do.
I'm back.
Ryan's training the next class of serial killers tomorrow.
Ooh, there's a class on that?
That's all I'm going to think about. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm just saying, if you want to create followers who don't question, it's a great brainwashing tool.
Lovely.
They call it team building in a corporate scenario, but it's the same basic principle.
Brainwashing / team building, all the same.
That's all.
As long as I get my pizza lunch.
All right, so let's take a look at our main topic for the week. From gamesindustry.biz, could Sony return to the handheld market? Sony is a consumer hardware company, and almost everything else the company has ever been or continues to be is ultimately the service of being a consumer hardware company. It sees hardware as the center of an ecosystem, a subtle but hugely important contrast to Microsoft's perception of the software platform being center, with hardware in its orbit. And in its efforts to make PlayStation into the core of a powerful, unified hardware and software ecosystem date back decades. Various stabs at realizing parts of that vision have included the PSX, a 2003 device that was built and enhanced DVR around the PlayStation 2 hardware, various TVs with integrated PlayStation hardware, add-on units like the Play TV, which added DVR functionality to the PlayStation consoles, and a variety of devices built around game and media streaming from the consoles. Then, of course, there are the handhelds. PlayStation's Portable and PlayStation's Vita were in many ways designed to carry the vision forward. Neither of them was a pure gaming device in the sense of something like Nintendo's 3DS, with the PSP also being envisioned as a portable media device, an access unit for media stored on devices like the PSX and PS3. While the Vita was built in a host of non-gaming media and communication features, and was also designed as a terminal that would stream games and media from a PlayStation console. It goes without saying that none of these ecosystem ambitions ever quite turned out the way Sony had hoped. PlayStation did not, in general, form a core of home entertainment and communication network, but that unifying vision still informs what Sony does with PlayStation, and it would be equally wrong to say that it's been entirely unsuccessful.
In the past week or so, a few reports have emerged, most notably from Insider Gaming, about Sony having a new handheld device in the pipeline. The idea that Sony might launch a handheld that's essentially a dumb slate, streaming from a user's PS5, seems like a non-starter in this context. As described, it does nothing a smartphone can't do, and would sell to a minority of PS5 owners rather than doing anything to recapture the handheld market Sony currently cedes to Nintendo. Would Sony really dream of re-entering the handheld space, though? This is a market the company still bears some bruises from. The Vita is arguably the company's only true failure, the only major PlayStation-branded platform to ever really fail to capture a decent market. It was a lovely piece of hardware in many ways, but it was dogged by a series of errors and absolutely melted by Nintendo's renewed dominance of the handheld space. The commercial case for Sony re-entering this space is tough to make, but on the other hand, I'd argue that it would be hugely surprising if the company wasn't at least playing with handheld prototypes internally. Even if they never bring one of those to market, there will be some divisions and leaders within Sony who will never fully accept ceding the handheld space to Nintendo. After the success of the PSP, retreating from that market segment hurt. And it hurt all the more when Nintendo launched the Switch and deflated any justifications about the handheld space being moribund? The f*** is that word?
Dead. Flat.
Can we leave that in?
Please.
And it hurt all the more when Nintendo launched the Switch and deflated any justifications about the handheld space being moribund in a post-smartphone world.
That pain is all the more acute in Japan, and while Sony's gaming operations are no longer headquartered in Tokyo, Sony remains at heart a Japanese company. The relative underperformance of the PlayStation in Japan in recent years is a tough pill to swallow. It's hard to overstate just how dominant and ubiquitous the Switch is in Japan, and just how much the PS5 has been forced not just into second place, but into a market niche. Part of that is about Nintendo's cultural position for sure, but part of it is also about form factor. There's just a huge swath of the addressable audience here for whom a dockable handheld makes much more sense than a chonker of a home console that requires a chonker of a television to be worthwhile. There's no strategic reason for a handheld device such as this to come to market, and little commercial justification either. Still, it's understandable if the embers of enthusiasm for handheld gaming still glow within Sony, and the desire to get back on top in the company's home market must burn ever hotter. It seems unlikely that this will materialize as a product, at least as is being currently reported, but perhaps Sony still has the capacity to surprise us all. A real handheld push with a significant new device, one that can broaden the platform's appeal beyond the existing PS5 market, would be exceptionally difficult, but it's certainly not impossible. But who knows, if Sony is ready to learn from the mistakes of Vita and throw its full weight behind a handheld platform it truly sees as a key part of the PlayStation strategy, then perhaps Nintendo's dominance might not be so unassailable after all.
Don't do it, Sony. Don't do it.
Do it. Do it.
Don't do it. No.
Do it. I want a new handheld.
Okay, we're not gonna touch that. Look at the Steam Deck. Is the Steam Deck doing well?
No, not at all.
It's not. I just, oh my God. Here's the thing. Don't hate me, but I don't think the world needs handheld games anymore or handheld consoles. It's just not feasible. I get that. And I accept it. But when you've got powerful consoles that you can play at home and you've got your phone, you've got your Samsung Galaxy, you've got your iPhone, everything that can do what these newer consoles can do, it's not feasible. It doesn't make any sense.
And honestly, Sony has already kind of thrown their hat into the smartphone arena with that backbone that they had that you can attach to your smartphone to play games on. So it's not like it's completely out of the realm of possibility that they've been thinking about a handheld in some capacity. But to Donnie's point, I don't know if there is a whole lot of market desire for an additional handheld. I mean, honestly, Nintendo backed away from having a purely dedicated handheld console to having one that's a hybrid. The Steam Deck didn't perform well, to Donnie's point. And what I think you're seeing, especially from the younger generation, is that they're not terribly afraid to play games on their smartphone, even if they are playing with kind of what I would consider to be lackluster controls, having to use a touchscreen. It's the interface that they're used to using growing up playing Candy Crush or Angry Birds on their parents' phones, and now they've got their own devices so they can play with it. But things even like Fortnite and PUBG are available on mobile devices now. So the question would be, why would a gamer, especially of that generation, want two devices, one for surfing the internet and one for playing games, when they can just have it all in one? But I can feel Blue wanting to contradict what I have to say.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn. Go for it.
Woo! You both make some very good arguments, and I agree with you both completely, except for the fact that if you were to try to enter the handheld market with a new device, I don't think your goal should be to try to be as successful and sell as many units as you would an actual console.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a side product. It would be a niche product. It would probably be something specifically meant to dethrone the Switch in Japan, or at least kick it in the shins a little bit and make it notice you again.
Kick it in the shins. Just a small kick.
Right. I mean, this article is correct. And as it's describing, if all it does is stream PS5 games from your existing PS5 and make that a mobile device for you, that's no good at all. But if they could come up with something that is a dedicated handheld system, maybe even a dock, but if it's its own thing, it's not trying to be the PS5 mini.
Right.
If it's its own thing with its own dedicated library of games to give an alternative to people maybe who still want to play the quote unquote grown up games that you can play from PlayStation, but it's never going to compete with consoles, especially in the wider worldwide market.
Right. Right. I was thinking that, in Japan, it makes sense because you've got a large population of people who ride the bullet train or ride the subway to work every single day. So they need something to play with. And that's where that Nintendo Switch has been huge, especially from a handheld perspective in Japan. But to your point, I think making it a hybrid console with unique games that you can't find on PlayStation 5. The only thing I'm going to run into is that right now it's going to become exceedingly difficult to create something that is of handheld size that plays games like you can find on the PlayStation 5 of that quality. So you would need a device with like a really top-notch screen on it. You would need space in order to hold the game's information and memory. You're asking either one of two things, either making it enormous by utilizing old technology or utilizing the most top of the line technology and it being exceedingly expensive. So even though maybe there's a desire and a marketplace for that, if you're going to go after it being a higher end handheld like that, you're going to run into issues just from a technology standpoint.
Now, are they on the bullet train with orange and tangerine?
I don't know.
Lemon.
I've never been to Japan, Donnie.
Lemon.
No one likes lemons.
Bollocks, mate. Lemonade, lemon drops.
Got a sore throat?
Lemon meringue
When was
pie.
the last time you ate a lemon meringue pie?
Lemon drizzle cake.
I'm sorry, are you talking about lemons?
Sorry, lemon and tangerine. Sorry. Jesus, did I say orange?
Get your right citrus. Damn, you sure did.
Got to pull my card on that one.
Uh-huh.
But to Blue's point, you can't sit there and create a new handheld device that's going to stream your PS5 games. Because really? You want me to pay extra for that? Not only do I have to pay extra for a PSVR 2, I now have to pay extra to be able to stream my PS5 games on the go when the Switch has that off the cuff.
Right.
I'm going to stick with the Switch.
So PS6 is a hybrid console? Is that what we're doing?
No, the PS6 is a, wait for it, dongle.
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 No, it would be stupid. It would be stupid for Sony to abandon the worldwide market in favor of what the Japanese market wants. That would be dumb.
Right.
But I'm a sucker for handhelds. If they could come up with one, I want them to. I want them to come up with one that gets me excited, that gives me a reason to go out and buy. Shut up. That gives me a reason to go out and buy something I don't need and spend money I don't have just to be able to play more games that I probably won't get to. But that's the kind of stuff that I love.
You could get like a Kingdom Hearts 47 divided by 52 to the power of 88 on it, right? That would suffice, correct?
It depends. As long as it's not the rhythm game, sure.
Imagine a rhythm game on a like on a portable console. You're on the bullet train, like shaking this thing, trying to get it to go.
I mean, the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game is on Switch, so people are probably playing it on bullet trains.
You're shaking a handheld on the bullet train?
I'm just glad I'm not that person. I'm glad I'm not looking that stupid in public. I do a lot of stupid things, but yeah, that's not going to be one of them. I will say this, though. Sony loves to copy Nintendo to a point. Wii comes out, and magically, PlayStation comes out with their version of motion controls that are these huge, and I'm going to use the word from the article here, huge chonker of a of a controller with a big blue light on the top of them. But they needed to have their own motion controls. It wouldn't be unprecedented for them to be like, yeah, you know what? We want just like what Nintendo's doing. But here it's better. It's way better because it's from PlayStation and you're going to love it. Pony Boys, sign up. It's coming.
Pony Boy. What's this, The Outsiders?
Yeah, that's a derogatory term for somebody who is a Sony fan. I don't know what the Xbox version of that is, though. My guess is that it's not as memorable since I don't know it. So, in conclusion, Blue wants this.
I want this.
Me and Donnie are skeptical.
I gotta say, I honestly think the handheld is dead. It is dead. Everybody has their phone. You can install an emulator on your phone that has all the old classic games, whatever you want.
Right. And that's why the Android Pocket continues to sell out.
There's a lot more when it comes to the Android Pocket to get it to work. It requires shifting out SD cards and loading ROMs onto things. So
it's a novelty.
It's a lot of extra work.
And the play date as well is a big thing. And I agree. They're very niche markets, but the market is there. There's still money to be made. Not everything has to be in the scale of millions upon millions of units. It doesn't mean you can't still be profitable and successful with a smaller product.
So what you're saying is quick cash and $20 is $20.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
In all contexts. All right, so before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by the Leadus Podcast. It's a show where three friends and occasional guests play games about video games, including in trivia, game show games, and more. Here's this week's trivia question. Cyberpunk 2077 continues the long-standing trend of converting tabletop RPGs into video games. D&D, Warhammer, and Shadowrun are other popular examples. 2017 saw the release of a record-breaking Kickstarter of another conversion based on a futuristic TTRPG released 4 years prior. Name the game or the setting, or both for bonus points. Tune into the Elitist podcast this Wednesday to hear the answer. You can find the Elitist on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll also have their links in the show notes. Any ideas here, guys?
I don't know anything about tabletop RPGs.
I don't really have a set idea here, but the thing that keeps coming back to me is futuristic. The only thing that comes to mind in futuristic would be like a
Redacted.
It's a fantastic guess. A wrong one, but a fantastic guess. Blue, any ideas?
No, not a one. So if I could say the setting, so it's futuristic. Let's say it's redacted.
I need that in my life, but that's not correct.
Dang it.
So here's the answer, and I have no idea what this means, but Tim said the tabletop RPG,
Redacted.
a spiritual successor of the D&D game.
Redacted.
What?
What?
Yep.
What is that?
I've never heard of it either.
And when I search for
Redacted.
it takes me to an adult. I'm not.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, sure. You didn't mean to click on that search result. Of course not.
All right, thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats. Welcome back to Professor Ryebread's Gaming History 101. And in today's lesson, we're going to talk about a console that was once considered the future of gaming, but many people aren't even aware of its existence today. We'll be talking, of course, about the Panasonic 3DO. So before I jump into this, one of the things I do want to address is that a common thing that I run into people is that they mix up the history behind the 3DO and the Philips CDI. So what I'm going to say is knock it off and listen, and maybe you'll learn something today.
3DO exponentially better than the CDI.
Agreed. Completely agree. Actually had like real games on it, but okay, I digress. So when talking about the 3DO, you need to introduce one of the most influential people in the history of games that no one seems to talk about. And that name, of course, is Trip Hawkins. He helped found the company Electronic Arts in 1982, and Trip worked for Apple as a director of strategy and marketing before leaving them to start EA. Now, Trip helped move away from the games development from being just one person developing one specific game to a team of people working to develop games in the mid to late 80s. Now, Nintendo consoles, of course, dominated the marketplace, and Trip was not a fan of the licensing agreements publishers had to sign in order to make games on the console. So when you signed up with Nintendo, you had to purchase carts and boards and chips directly from Nintendo and pay them as well $15 per game for a licensing fee just for each game to get sold. Now, naturally, Trip wanted to find a way to make great games for less, and with the Genesis and Mega Drive arriving in the late 80s, EA saw Sega as a strong partner to help increase their profit margins, which only had a $13 per game licensing fee, and the ability to make their own carts, boards, and chips. Now, you'll probably recognize the EA carts from Sega as the ones that have that like yellow tab that you think would like slide in and out, but don't. And it's just sitting there for no reason, but they're often square. They look a lot different than your typical Genesis / Mega Drive cart. Now, interestingly enough, though, with Trip, that originally wasn't part of the deal with EA, but they ended up reverse engineering the chips and the boards from Sega. And to avoid EA selling that research to other third-party developers, Sega actually made EA a partner and allowed them to basically take liberties within, and to ensure better profit margins for that group. Now, around the late 80s, early 90s, designers from Amiga and Atari were working together to develop a new CD-ROM-based console that would revolutionize the gaming industry. Dave Needle and RJ McCall planned this out one day while eating by trying out the early concepts on a napkin. I feel like every cool story starts off on a napkin, so I'm just going to bring a bunch of napkins around and just start writing stuff, just so that can be a part of my origin story.
Or somebody designed it in a salad left over,
There you go. Made it out of mashed potatoes. This is going to be important.
Mashed potatoes.
Now, at the time, EA was looking to create their also a next generation console as well to kind of get away from this whole licensing thing. And Needle and McCall approached Tripp, which they were actually friends outside of this, and basically the right time to propose their idea. Now, Tripp loved the concept, and rather than just buying the idea, he decided to create another company with Needle and McCall to headline the project, and thus the 3DO company was born. I did a lot of research to find out what 3DO stands for, and I got a lot of mixed messages. So I'm not going to settle on either of them. We're just going to go 3DO. It's like the movie War Dogs, where he asks, what does AEY stand for? He says, doesn't stand for anything, just like IBM. And the guy corrects him and says, no, actually, that's International Business Machines. And he says, no, you're a dork. Get out of here. That's what we're doing here today. 3DO doesn't mean anything.
You don't know what you're talking about, dork.
So, the idea for the 3DO was actually pretty simple. They would make a concept for a system that would be licensed to an established electronics manufacturer, and all they would require from game publishers is a $3 per game licensing fee. Now, seeing this as a huge selling point to developers, Tripp and team moved forward with the concept, expecting companies to flock to the new console. They approached both Sony and Panasonic to manufacture the console, but Sony passed because they were already making the PlayStation. Sega was part of the conversation as a potential partner, but passed due to the high upfront costs. So Panasonic signed with 3DO as their first manufacturer, and at the CES show that year, they created a lot of buzz around the console. With an updated 3D ROM graphics and amazing sound capabilities, the hype was in full swing. This allowed 3DO to get promises from over 100 developers to make games for the console. Things are looking great, right? If you think about it too, like this console was essentially the belle of the ball in many respects, getting nods from really big magazines at the time, listing them as being kind of the technological wonder of the year, getting press from news outlets and newspapers, all expecting the 3DO to change the video game landscape. But as you can guess, 3DO isn't something you hear a lot about. It didn't live up to the hype. Now, there were a few issues that really hampered down the success of the 3DO. So by licensing it out to another manufacturer, the cost for building the console was actually pretty high. And at launch in 1993, the 3DO retailed for a whopping $699.99. Yeah. Making it one of the most expensive consoles to date, especially if you take into account inflation. Now, Panasonic wasn't able to provide the needed number of consoles for launch, leaving many retailers with 2 or less units to sell on opening day, sometimes none. And lastly, one of the things that kind of hampered them down was that there were several games planned for launch, including Return Fire, Road Rash, FIFA International Soccer, and Jurassic Park Interactive. But all of those games had to be pushed back to mid-1994 as the developers struggled to code for the quote-unquote cutting-edge console. An ironic twist of fate, the only game available for the October 1993 launch was Crash and Burn.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Side Pockets.
No. Ahead of its time. I love it. So eventually, Panasonic would go on to reduce the price to $499.99, and the company's Gold Star, which would later become LG, and Sanyo, I don't know how to say that one right, would make their own versions of the system. So both Nintendo and Sega often sold their consoles at a loss with the expectation that they would recuperate those costs from selling games. Now, the 3DO couldn't compete in that sense because they were offering up a $3 licensing fee for games and essentially were trying to recuperate the cost of the console by generating a profit from that sale. Also, though, if you look at the time of the launch, the Sega Saturn, Atari Jaguar, N64, which was known as Project Reality at that point, and the Sony PlayStation all announced future launches for the console. So this made buying a 3DO at its high costs and without killer lineup of games something consumers were willing to pass on. The final nail in the coffin is when publishers who made games exclusive to the console began porting them to PlayStation and Saturn, including EA, which Tripp had resigned from around the launch of the 3DO. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Talk about your ultimate backstabs. Oh, jeez.
Ouch, baby. Very ouch.
Yeah. So the 3DO would only make consoles up until 1997 when they ceased production and sold off their assets in 2003, becoming nothing more than kind of a blip on the history of gaming. And that's not to say that they didn't come out with games that players loved. Some of the best games on the console include one of the best ports of Street Fighter II Turbo, games like Alone in the Dark, Star Control 2, Total Eclipse, Gex, Slayer, Killing Time, The Need for Speed, and Road Rash. I recently picked one up, and almost all of these games were examples of people saying, this game is awesome, you got to play it on the 3DO. So I know I got a lot to buy for.
And I can contest to that with Night Trap.
Oh, that's right. There's a Night Trap on 3DO.
Yes.
Yes.
If you compare the Sega CD version to the 3DO version, holy crap. Is it much smoother? Is it better gameplay? The Sega CD is like, it's very pixelated. You're like, eh. But then you jump over to the 3DO. It's like, ooh, hey, what's your name?
How you doing?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, I shouldn't, but
You want to get out of here?
It's like a girl's hotter younger sister. All right, so to kind of wrap things up, big ideas, lots of hype, and unforeseen problems plagued what could have been a real shakeup in the gaming industry. The 3DO's legacy is perhaps by existing forced other game companies to essentially up their game and speed up the timeline for the next generation of consoles. So 3DO, we salute you. So thank you all for attending today's Gaming History 101. Just a reminder, if you have ideas for a story you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, and we might feature your suggestion. So that'll about do it for us here today. So thank you for listening to episode 68 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Leaders Podcast, and Love Retro BTW for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. And if you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And of course, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. Finally, since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice.
I would just like to say that it's complete bullshit that Blue gets to host episode 69.
Are you jealous? Because last week you were whining about having to host, and now all of a sudden you're jealous that I get to host. So
that's my number.
Make me an offer.
Okay, that's mine.
Make me an offer.
You got to make her an offer she can't refuse.
Yep.
Exactly.
So you'll find out on next week's episode of Gamers Week Podcast.
Right, whether he was successful. That's a hell of a cliffhanger.
Tune in next week, folks.
Find out if Dottie had to sell his soul to Blue for hosting episode 69. All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Are you talking about lemons?
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's dick in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.